Welcome to the Bold Goal Crusher podcast for anyone looking to stop letting life get in the way and start crushing bold goals. I'm your host, Sara Mayer, and I'm thrilled to navigate this journey with you because it's time to start boldly achieving without working double time. So let's dive in. Hello, Bold Goal Crushers. I'm super excited about this episode. I think you're going to love my guest. So let me introduce you to Christine. She is a visionary entrepreneur, storyteller, and the CEO and founder of the Corporate Escapists, a renowned media company that harnesses the power of storytelling to help entrepreneurs attract their ideal clients. With a deep understanding of the profound impact stories have on human connection and consumer behavior, Christine has revolutionized the way entrepreneurs communicate and sell their products and services. I'm so excited to have you on the show. I read your bio and I was like, oh yes, this is going to be a great conversation.
Oh, thank you so much. Like I was saying to you, it's taken about 4 years to get to it because I think we all go on a journey to not only find ourselves, but also find that sweet spot in our business as well.
Yeah. There's so much to unpack here in your bio. And I know many of the listeners know that I was in corporate for many years. And then during COVID, I was thrown into the deep end of the pool. And many of you listening to the show are in your 9 to 5. You may be even in your corner office and you're looking to leave your job. So let me tell you that there is a whole world of opportunity on the other side. But Christine, it sounds like you may have a story as well, just by hearing your business name.
Yeah, absolutely. I call it my not so gracious exit from corporate. I got diagnosed with 2 life-changing illnesses. That same year, left a toxic, unfixable marriage and filed for bankruptcy. So it wasn't gracious at all how I had to literally stop working. But it was the best thing that ever happened to me. And then I have what I call my pity party for the next couple of years. That was the poor me, the why me, everything's happening to me. And then went on a beautiful journey of self-discovery and healing. And from that, I then learned the power of owning a story, but then started to share my story. And this is how the business all started for me, simply getting to a point where I wanted to start sharing it. People were recognizing the change. And from that, it has grown in the last 5 years to a global media company.
Wow. What an inspiration to, I think it's always really difficult to share the story because it's easy to share the highlight reel. Here I am. It looks so great. But there's always, as my mom says, there's always a backstory. And so how did you get to the point where you felt confident enough to actually share your story?
Let me just say I wasn't. I remember this interview. I was literally, sweat was just pouring out of every part of my body because I was so nervous. It just was so uncomfortable for me. But what turned that around is me thinking it's not about me anymore. This is, if I could just help one person, then I would feel so amazing that everything that I'd went through was worth it. And when I started flipping the script, that it was no longer about me, it was about the other people listening and what I could bring to it, it changed everything. And like I said, it's taken 5 years. I'm very comfortable on camera now. Like, I'm okay with it. But that's 5 years in the making. And every people see, like you're saying, they see the after, they never see the before. So you could go back, you can find it and watch that first interview. It's hilarious. But now I don't make it about myself. I get here to share and show people what is possible by owning the story, but now sharing it in a way to actually inspire other people.
Wow. And I imagine that you went on a journey. You mentioned the journey. I imagine that there were different variations. I know what it's like to have videos out there where you're like, ooh, that wasn't so great. But I don't delete them because somebody needs to see that original one. In fact, I have one mentor that has beautiful edited videos, and I found her first YouTube video. And she's, oh my gosh, how'd you find that? I'm like, please don't delete it because I use it with my client. Look at her way back then, and she's still got this out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't delete anything.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer that with every conversation, with every experience, like every moment that we have in life, we become a different person. So the decisions that I might make yesterday are going to be completely different to what I make today because of those moments that happen. So why sit back and go, oh my God, look at that. It's awful. It's terrible. But I'm such a different person to what I was yesterday
Yeah.
to what I was even 5 years ago.
Yeah, and it's so cool probably to see your journey. Do you mind sharing a little bit about your journey? What did you do to go from where you were, where you mentioned it was like a pity party, to where you are now?
Yeah, look, honestly, I think part of my brain has blocked out some of the real hard parts of it, but a lot of it came down to finding who I was. And I remember at one point where somebody said to me, "What are you doing?" And I have no problem talking. So for me to clam up, and it was like an anxiety attack, I couldn't answer it because I realized that I was so attached to my corporate identity that I didn't know who I was without a job title. And I had worked for 22 years. So not having a job, not knowing who I was, it really was the first thing to start to unpack. And it was then giving myself permission to ask the questions, who are you? Who do you want to be? What do you want to do? And I don't think we've ever give ourselves that permission to be able to do that.
Mhm.
So it was asking the questions, and there was a whole heap of modalities that I started to use in it. I got in touch with my spirituality, really started to heal. And one of the big things was forgiveness. It was not just the forgiveness of others. It actually was my forgiveness of myself of, hey, you've been in this situation, all these things that happened. And actually forgive myself for knowing, hey, I'm a human being. We make mistakes. There's things that happen, and really leaning into that. And the forgiveness side actually was one of the most profound things that I had done because I let go of what I call what were my two best friends, shame and guilt. And
Mm.
shame and guilt followed me everywhere. I was ashamed that I was about to hit my 40s. I was going to sleep on my parents' couch. I was ashamed that was my second marriage. I was ashamed that I had to file for bankruptcy. And then the guilt bubbled up inside. And when you forgive yourself, you can let go of that. And when you do that, you yourself allow then so much more goodness come into your life. But I remember I was literally walking with my head held down because I didn't want to look people in the eye. And
Yeah.
now I'm not scared of what people are going to say because literally I've said the worst things that you possibly can say to myself anyway.
Yeah. Isn't that so true? We're often the biggest critics of ourselves.
Yeah.
Wow. What a journey you went on. And I like that you shared that your two best friends were shame and guilt. I think many people will relate to that and say, oh, yeah, that's one of my best friends too. I didn't know we were all sharing the same best friends. But now you're really working with entrepreneurs to share their stories. So, can you talk a little bit about why that's so important?
Yeah. And look, as business owners, you are the business, you are the brand. And if we think about there are billions of businesses in the world, what separates you from everybody else is yourself. And if you're not sharing your why, if you're not sharing the reason behind starting it, and it does not have to be like a doom or gloom or rags to riches story. It literally could be, I'm in the shower and this light bulb moment happened, or I was walking my kids and I found this need for it. People identify with stories and stories sell. And if you're not sharing that why, you are missing out on that human connection. You're missing out on what marketing teaches is that no trust factor. Your people are not going to like you. They don't know you, and how are they going to trust you? So if you can share your story, you're pretty much 10xing that like no trust factor to get people to buy into your business, to follow you, and then to purchase your products and services.
Yeah. And I think it's really about that connection when identifying with your story and other stories, even if it's just a loose thread, it doesn't need to be the exact same story, but oh, somebody else out there struggled with that. Somebody else out there went through the same thing. Somebody else out there slept on their parents' couch. And that's, I think, what you mentioned brings that know and trust factor, but also the feeling that, okay, what I'm going through is also normal.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think one of the key things that COVID taught us is that we love connection and we miss that so much. So we want people to have these real, authentic conversations. We want to get to know our neighbors. We want to get to know the people in our community. And a business owner, you are part of that. And you need to start sharing and be raw and vulnerable. And I always say to people, actually, the biggest videos that I have is where I'm sitting there with no makeup on, maybe having a cry, like talking about some real things, because that's people relate to it. Like, oh my God, it's not all this beautiful roses and filters and all that sort of stuff, because it's hard work. Sometimes just life can be difficult. So if we can share that journey and people can relate to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes that's easier said than done. So, how does one get the courage to be able to do that?
Oh, it takes a lot. And I think everybody has the courage within themselves to do it. But for me, it comes back to the same thing when I first did my video. It's no longer about me. It's my business is, yes, it's my business. But for me, if I share something, it could just help one person. And I guess it's letting go of the ego that's inside of ourselves, thinking that everything has to be perfect. And when you can drop that and you can really sink into your full, true, authentic self and let go of, I guess, the perfection that we all have within our side of ourselves. Yeah, that's really where it comes down to. It's just letting go and surrendering and letting people know that, hey, I could potentially help you with this one video.
Yeah. Yeah. And so now you work with business owners to tell their story. How does that work? How does that look? Like, how do you start that? If I were to know, I really need to share more of my personal story, how does that work even begin?
Yeah, like our process is that we literally jump on Zoom, very similar to this, and we have a conversation. I find that the more questions I send people, they overthink it. So it's us having a conversation. And a lot of people go, I don't know what story to tell. That's probably the hardest part. By having that conversation, we work out what the key message is that you want. So if you think of what the end goal is, do you want to just raise awareness? Do you want people to buy potentially into a product or service? And then we can work back with it. And having that beautiful conversation, we tap into it. And then there is a couple of little coaching things that we may do depending on sort of the level of awareness that they've got within themselves. And sometimes we have to do a little bit of coaching to allow them to really come back in and to, again, let go of the shame and guilt. And then realizing what they've got is so powerful. And then we choose which is going to be the best way for them to share it. Some people are still not comfortable being on camera, so we do an article. Some people are comfortable talking opposed to writing, so we'll do it on our podcast and our TV show. So we work out what is going to be their best method of communication, so them to really authentically shine for their
Yeah.
business.
Yeah. And I bet you it's a lengthy process. Like it starts with the story and then it's refined and then edited and then really analyzed for impact as well.
Yeah, look, I try not to edit too much
Mhm.
of it. I find the fact that once people have had those couple of calls, they can really sink into it. We might say to them, look, you need to reduce the word count, all those sorts of things. But I try not to do it because when somebody is writing, it really is their energy and their essence that actually comes through. And what may not make sense sometimes, but to your ideal clients, it's going to make the perfect sense
Yeah.
to them reading it. So you might go, oh, this just doesn't work. But if I know you really well and we know your product and we know the end result, I'm like going, this makes perfect sense what you're writing. So let's go with it.
Mm.
And then the good thing is that it actually allows us to break it down into what we call mini content then that we can start sharing. We can share what you think is a muddled piece of the article. It actually is the golden part that we can then start to share and do the micro content for it as well.
Yeah. So it leads to a lot of different opportunities
Yeah.
to share, obviously beyond the full story.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's what a lot of people miss is that they go, oh, I either write a blog article or I write this. And they realize that there's actually probably 20 different stories within one article.
Yeah. I did something on my show a couple of months ago. I listened to somebody's show where they were the hosts and then they actually had somebody interview them. I thought that was great. So I did it, and it's one of my most downloaded episodes.
Yeah. Oh, we had that with an amazing lady. She's based in Canada and she does vision boards. And so I did her course and then I went through and I showed her the photos that I was going to put on there, and then we did the whole placement. And I think when people can actually see like your gifts in action, people are going, oh my God, I want to work with that person. And we're doing a lot more of that. And it's hard sometimes for people to translate what they do without the action behind it or people watching them as well.
Yeah. And I think so many people have everybody has a lot of different dynamics and aspects to their life, to their business, to just the essence of who they are. And we don't need to share everything, but there's a way to share the things that are important and the things that really will increase that know and trust factor and resonate truly with an audience.
Yeah, definitely. We're multifaceted human beings. So I think sometimes you've got to share every angle of it. Clients actually recognize my dog more than they recognize me when I'm out because I share so many photos of my dog.
Yeah.
So I think that's the human element to it. Just to say that you're not just in business, like you talk about all different things with it. And just because say you're on wellness doesn't mean that you can't talk about that you eat ice cream or those sorts of things, because everybody's got something that they love, not out like that are outside of their business.
Yeah, I have a boxer and she's got a ton of followers. And people are like, I know your dog's birthday, but I don't even know yours.
Yeah, exactly.
She's a little
So
superstar. But when she does come up, every once in a while, she'll come up like right here. And oh, she's a big star on the podcast when she comes up. She's sleeping right now, but yeah.
Yeah, mine's down the side here. And so she's, am I allowed up? No, you're not allowed up today. But
yeah. So if somebody's listening to the show and they don't even know where to start, like, where do you advise entrepreneurs get started with this process?
Yeah, let's think about you going back and asking yourself, why did you start your business? And a lot of the times, if we're a few years in, you forget the why. So go back and think about, why did you originally start it and why are you still doing it? Because sometimes they're going to be two completely different things. And that literally sometimes is the start of your story. Going, I started my business because of this. And 5 years later, it's manifested, it's turned into this different whole business, which we never thought would happen. And that's a story within itself. And people relate to it because you grow as a person and the business grows.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's natural. There's a lot of people out there that say when you first start, get really specific. But what I found in what you alluded to in your 5-year journey is that what I first thought I wanted to do is very different than what I'm doing now. And allowing myself to explore those things has really shaped my business.
Oh, so true. I started off just as an interview series and never thought that would I have a magazine, never thought would I self-publish books. That it just changes. And I thought originally was just going to coach people with what I had been through. So it has changed completely. But also too, when you start listening to what people are talking about and what you think they need is actually completely different as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So how did it evolve into publishing for you?
Well, the magazine started, I was actually doing a meditation and I saw magazine covers and oh my goodness, I laughed so hard. I thought, oh, this is hilarious. There's just no way. And this was actually March of 2020. And I thought, oh, okay, obviously I'm being called to do something. Let's just put it out there. I did a social post and then somebody had been following me and she goes, how much for the front cover? And I'm like, oh, okay, this is a real thing now. Let's just run with it. And within 3 months, we launched our very first magazine issue. So I always believe that if you obviously given something to run with it, because there's never going to be a perfect time to do it. And then what evolved is I had an opportunity to go into a co-authored book, and there was pros and cons, obviously, to that whole process. And I thought, I already have a platform where people are sharing their stories. Who wants to put it into a book? And the book is really part of your legacy that you're leaving as well, because your story, it's here, it's in print. It's the same with the magazine. It's never going away. And then that's how that all started to evolve. And it was literally just listening to people and starting to see what some of the trends that were happening as well. And what I found, though, it's not people wanting to leave the legacy. They actually use the writing process as their healing process as well.
Wow. So say that again. It's not them trying to leave a legacy. It's them using the writing process as a healing process.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm.
Because when you are writing, I'm a big believer that the energetics, when you put something down onto paper, it's a transfer of energy.
Mhm.
And what happens is when people start to write it, and they start writing it in a way where it's a really loving, nurturing process, and they're using it in a way not to go, hey, look at me. It's more of a self-love, come back to me. Let's heal what's happened. Let's put it down. Obviously, you'll work out boundaries of how much you want to share or what part of the story you want to share, because some of the things are quite traumatic that they've shared in these stories. But that's healed them, because once you've put it out there, nobody else, like, it's that shame and guilt thing that all comes back again. You let go of it because it's out there for people to see. So, well, go ahead, say whatever you want to say. Now that you're helping somebody else, you are now releasing it from yourself. And most of my clients have found that the very first book that they write, that's the healing process. And then they go on to write their second or third books. And that then starts part of the legacy. It's like letting them know what's happened before, how I've healed, and now this is why I'm in business.
Yeah. Wow. And that's got to be such an empowering process for you to watch your clients go through that as well.
Oh my goodness. I get goosebumps every time, like, I talk to them, and I sit there and I'm like, I feel like I get a mini coaching session myself every time I talk to them, and I don't think they realize the impact that they have on me. So that their stories keep actually giving me the drive to keep going, to keep sharing these stories. But seeing them let go, to see them own the different processes as well, and then to even have those little light bulb aha moments within themselves, going, oh my goodness, I didn't realize that actually was part of the journey to really why I do what I do.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so many light bulbs for them and you, which I think is just really cool. And I think many times entrepreneurs get really involved in the work they're doing or the thing that they've created for their business, and they lose part of the reflection process or the journey. How would you suggest that maybe an entrepreneur really stay in touch with that journey that they're going through?
Oh, journaling. I journal every single day, and I do it in gratitude. What am I truly grateful for? Because I think we forget, like you're saying, like we just do, we're just always constantly doing things. But just come back to the present moment, like to remember what your values are as well, I think is super important. If you know what your value is, plus what you know what your purpose and your mission is, not just personally, but also for your business, it allows you to get out of the doing mode to
Yeah.
really come back into the creativity.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a planner that has during the day, it has a couple lines to jot down appointments, and I don't do that. I write in the planner at the end of the day, like how my day was, some big successes. So I do a little mini journal there. And I think many times people think journaling needs to be this hour-long process. It could be as expanded or as simple as you want to make it, but there is such power in reflection.
Absolutely. And sometimes, like, I look back in it and it's a little squiggle, and I'm like, oh, I don't even know what that is. But obviously, I had to get something out of my head, and I just
Yeah.
needed to write it. So, yeah, it can be. I'm a dot point person, like dot points with it. I'll
Yeah.
write, I'm truly grateful for, and here's the dot points underneath it. So,
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't need to be a novel.
No,
But if you do want to write a book, Christine can help you out there.
absolutely.
Yeah. So if somebody's listening and they know that they have a story in them, what would you say is maybe one of the first steps?
Just think of how you want to put it out there. A lot of people, you can do a TikTok video, you can jump on a podcast, you can go in a magazine or in a book. Think of how you want it to look and just start. I think so many people think, oh, it's going to be too difficult to do it. But we've all got access to Facebook and social media. You can literally start sharing your story that way. Or even just have conversations with either friends or community business groups, those sorts of things with it. And then if you want to take a breather, you can come talk to me.
I love it. Yes. Speaking of talking with you, if somebody is listening to this and they're like, okay, this is what I need in my business right now, how might they reach out to you? What might they expect?
Yeah. Everything is we jump on Zoom and we have a conversation. I like to work with people that we either match the same energy or we've got similar values. And I know that I can really help and support them as well. And it really is looking about what is their long-term plan for their business with that process. And then other people need a little bit of help and support. And that's what I'm here for.
I love it. Yeah. Sometimes people are ready and they just know, and other people definitely need that person to help guide them along. So if somebody wanted to work with you, how would they get in touch with you? What's the best
Look,
way?
it is easier just to drop us a DM either on Facebook or Instagram at the Corporate Escapists. And then we can send you a link for you to book in a call. Or you can follow me personally and just drop into my messenger as well. And we'll book in a call for you with it as well.
Great. And we'll drop those in the show notes as well. I could talk to you all day about stories and the power of storytelling. And I know that many of the listeners are out there probably thinking about their journey and have a story to tell as well. So thank you so much for being on the show and sharing your wisdom. I just loved this conversation.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, bold goal crushers, it's time to crush your goals and everything that gets in the way so you do not have to work double time. So let's get to it. Thank you for tuning in to the Bold Goal Crusher podcast, where we crush goals and everything that gets in the way. I always love to support my community. I look forward to seeing you crush your goals this year.